Hi, I'm Amanda Skelton, an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and today I'd like to show you how to make this lovely card. I've got two examples here. I guess I call it sort of like a diamond 3D card. So it does fold flat, but then it also opens up to stand up as a 3D card, which is quite nice. Now, the papers I've used on these two examples are already retired, I'm afraid, but the images I've used are not, but you could use any papers with this. What I've also done with these particular examples, I've also scaled it down. So on the example that I'm going to make with you today, we're going to put all the layers in. I've stripped back one of the layers, so I've made it a little bit simpler on this one, on these two, so that if you don't want to use so many layers of paper, then you don't need to, but that, to be honest, is what makes it look luxurious. So I suppose I call this sort of like the basic version. So you can just take out one of the layers of papers, and I'll explain to you which ones to leave out. I've also got different examples here of where both of them are on white cardstock here. The one I'm going to do is going to be on coloured cardstock. But here, obviously, I've got white cardstock for my detail, and here I've got coloured for my detail. So you can mess around with the colours and the layouts, and we're going to have DSP for these on the example that I'm going to make. So you can play around with it, and obviously you can have different sentiments, etc. Or you could even have your sentiment on one of these if you wanted to. So yeah, so there's lots of things that you can do to play around and make your own mark on this one. But what I'll go through is obviously the mechanics of how to make the actual card itself. Okay, so where should we start? So first of all, I'm going to be using the dragonflies from the Dragonfly Garden. So I'm going to be using the stamps and the punch, and that's going to become the detail on my diamonds. That's what I'm going to use there. So this is what I used here as well. I've got this one dragonfly here, and then I actually used the flowers for this detail, which you could do as well. But on this one, I'm going to use the 3 dragonflies. I'm going to use Itty Bitty Birthdays, which is retired, just for my best birthday wishes. Obviously, you can have, it's Mother's Day coming up, which is the examples I have there. But I'm going to do birthday wishes, and most of the stamp sets, or many of the stamp sets, will have some kind of birthday greeting as opposed to Mother's Day. So I'm sure you'll find that on many of the others. You don't need to have Itty Bitty Birthdays. Okay, so what we're going to do today then is I'm going to use the colour of Pale Papaya. So this is the colour cardstock I'm using. And I'm using a white cardstock as well. And then I've got this patterned paper here. So it's two-sided. Let me just grab you. So this is called hand-penned papers. And I don't know if you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different designs there. And on the other side, we have these designs. What I like about this is that you've got quite a heavily patterned design on one side and a fairly plain on the other side. And this, I think, is a really good combination for doing this kind of card. If you have too many patterns, it can be too overpowering. So it's really good to have a more subtle background, or even a plain colour if you want to, and then a more detailed. It just helps to give a good contrast. So as you can see, I say these are the other opposite sides of the same paper, but it just gives a really good contrast. Okay, so what you'll need is lots of pieces of paper, but let's just get all the pieces there. So I will put a piece of paper here in a minute that will give you all the dimensions that you can pause on, so you can get all your details, but let me just go through it. So you want your base card. So on this one I'm doing coloured, but you could do it white, and that needs to measure 10 inches by 7 inches, and you need to score across at 5 inches and 7.5 inches. So that's going to become your card base. And then again in coloured card, you want your diamond bases. So your large diamond is going to be 3 inches by 3 inches, and then you want 2 diamond or 2 squares at 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So you want 2 of those. And then you want a piece of coloured card again, or if you're doing all your bases white, the same colour as that, and that needs to be 4 inches by 3 inches, and you need to measure score across at 1 inches, 2 inches and 3 inches. So that's going to become your support inside to make your inside diamond raise up. Okay, so then for our layers, we want white cardstock, and that measures 4 3/4 of an inch by 6 3/4 of an inch. And then you want 2 pieces for your other layers, which are 2 1/4 inches by 6 3/4 inches, and you want 2 of those. And then you want white card for your diamonds. So again, these are your layers. So you want, oh, that's the wrong piece. You want 1 piece which is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 inches, and then you want for your smaller diamonds 2 1/4 inches by 2 1/4 inches. Again, you want 2 of those. And then I've called them DSP or pattern paper 1 and pattern paper 2. Now they could be the opposite sides of the same paper, or you could completely choose different papers. It's up to you, but I have called them 1 and 2 just so you can get the contrast. So DSP paper 1, I've got the pattern side, the more pattern side. So you want a piece which is 4 5/8 of an inch by 6 5/8 of an inch, and then you want a narrower piece which is 2 1/8 of an inch by 6 5/8 of an inch. So that's your DSP pattern 1. And then your DSP pattern 2, you want another piece that's going to go on your section, one of your layers, which is going to be 2 1/8 of an inch by 6 5/8 of an inch, same as the other side. And then you want 3 pieces of second DSP pattern for your diamonds. So your largest one's going to be 2 5/8 of an inch by 2 5/8 of an inch, and then your smaller diamond's going to be 2 1/8 of an inch by 2 1/8 of an inch, and again you want 2 of those. Okay, so that's all the pieces you need to make the actual card. What I've then got is some white card and some coloured card. So this is going to be for my sentiment, and then I've got some white card because that's what I'm going to stamp my dragonfly onto to add that to my diamonds for my detail. Okay, let me just place the piece of paper here, which will tell you exactly what you need. So let me just place that there, and I'll let you pause that for a minute, and then you can see exactly what you need. Okay, so to be honest, I think probably the hardest part, or the most effort of this, is actually cutting out all the pieces. As you can see, there's a lot of them. So once you've cut them all out, it's just a case of assembling. So what we can do first of all is, if we have our base, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add our white layers. So we're going to have one there, one there, and one there. Now what I suggest you do actually before you do that is you score all your lines. So get your bone folder. Oh, I've done that the wrong way around, haven't I? Do it the other way. There you go. So that is actually your card base. So this then shows you where you need to put your white layers. You can have one on the front there, one on the back there, and then one on the inside there. Okay, so that's where we're going to stick them. So I'm going to use double-sided tape, and we're just going to put all our layers together. And again, because the papers are so pretty on this, again, the paper really does do a lot of the work on here. You don't have to be too fussy and too detailed. So I've put this piece on first, and what you want to do then is when you put your other 2 whites, just make sure that they all line up. It doesn't even matter if you've got a bigger section at the top to the bottom on your first piece. So long as they all line up, you're not going to notice the gap as much as you'll notice it if they're all not lined up. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that that looks lined up. And then the last section. I hope I'm not casting too many shadows on this because it's quite a grey, miserable day here today. So the sunlight isn't the best. Okay, so hopefully when I do that, they look pretty lined up. Okay. Then what we can do is we can add our patterned pieces. Now, I'm having... How was I doing it? Was I doing it that way? Now, what you can do is you can see what it looks like when you've got your detail. So that one's going to go under there. Yes, I think I'll do that. Or, if you want to, you can do it that way. You could either have it like that. Actually, maybe that looks a bit better. I'll stick to I'll stick to it being that way. I think it just brings out this one a bit more. And then you can do this one, whichever one you like. Okay, so as you can see on this one I've got two different colours, but on this one I've got the same. I just think it looks a little bit less fussy to do it that way. Oh, I don't know, maybe I'll do it the other way. Oh, I can't decide now. No, maybe I'll do it that way. Right, jury's in, finally. And then that piece in the middle you can do as the opposite way round. Okay, so again, just want to glue on your layers. Oh, glue tape's run out. Right, grab another. I don't think there is particularly a way up on this paper. Maybe there is. Again, if you've got directional paper, just make sure that you have got the direction the right way up. So we're just going to make sure that you've got that piece the other way round. Again, silicone sheets are brilliant for not getting glue on everything, because glue doesn't stick to silicone. Let's get rid of that, otherwise that'll stick. And again, make sure that your layers are lining up across each other. And then last piece. Okay, so do I think that's all the right way up? Yeah, maybe that way. And again, line up with the piece next to it. There you go. So when you do that, hopefully it should all look nicely lined up. Yes, I'm glad I've gone for that in the end. It's such a nice paper, it'd be a shame to sort of hide it really. And then that will have quite a nice contrast on it. Okay, so we can put that to the side. Actually, what we'll do here when we can allow it to dry. So you want to get your support piece. So this was your 4 inches by 3 inches and scored at 1 inch intervals. Okay, so it's basically going to make our square to go in the middle that will then allow us to have the pop-up. Okay, what you want to make sure is when you fold it in half like that with the two sections here with the gap, make sure they don't overlap, otherwise it's not going to be very easy to stick them together. So just if there is a little bit of an overlap, just cut it down a little bit more just so they don't overlap. You won't notice it if there's a little bit of a gap. Okay, so with it sort of folded down flat like this, what we're going to do is glue this piece here, and we're going to glue that, we're going to glue that so that it sticks onto here, and then we're going to glue this piece onto here, so that then when it opens it will then close down like that. Okay, so what we want to do is make sure it's centered. Now this card is 5 inches deep, 5 inches across by 7 inches deep, so what you will need to get a different envelope actually for this, which is I forgot to say at the start. So you will need a different size envelope. You'll need a 5 by 7 envelope. So this is 4 inches, that is 7 inches, so we need to mark 2 inches from the top and the bottom if you want to, but you just need a guide to know roughly where to place this. So I'm just marking with a piece of pencil where 2 inches is, and then I'm going to use wet glue, liquid glue, and I'm going to put it so folded like that, glue on the outside of one of these. Okay, and then with it so that it's flat, I'm going to offer that up to the middle there. Okay, and you should find it's about halfway. Okay, so I've used that line there to line it up. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up and have this piece folded over. Come on, glue. You were there for me just now. Okay, let's use a different one then. So again, this is on the outside edge section. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold that down like that. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it back on itself. So now you can see it's there. You're going to notice, if you can't fold it flat, you're going to notice that you can't fold it flat, and you're going to need to fold it flat to give it to somebody. So it's much better that you can fold it flat than it being a perfect square when you open it up, because it just needs to open a bit. It doesn't matter if it doesn't open as a perfect 90-degree angle square. Okay, so I'm going to leave that to dry, and then while that's drying we can assemble our other sections. So we can add, so I'm going to start with my large diamond. Again, I'm using my double-sided sticky tape. And I'm going to centre those. If you wanted to, you could use the more pattern side of this, but because we're going to put something on to decorate them, we want the more plain side really. So that's the large one done. Now we'll do the 2 small diamonds. Of course they're squares at this point, but they will turn into diamonds. Okay, don't know if you can see, but I've got a bit of glue on there. If you use a rubber, it will just take that off. Okay, and then let's add our DSP onto it. Okay, and then our third one. Line it up. So that's our 3 diamonds done. Okay, you can just see with the layers, having more layers, how more luxurious that looks. It just looks a lot more finished, doesn't it? But like I said, you can get away with not doing all the layers if you don't want to. Right, so that's looking nicely adhered there. In fact, it will still, oh, so you see what I mean? That doesn't quite, if you hold that flat, it doesn't quite go, but you're not going to notice that as much as doing that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we'll put those aside for the minute, and what we'll do is our dragonflies. So I've got some card here. I'm going to stamp them in pale papaya, which matches the cardstock, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a wink of Stella to colour them in. So because I'm going to be using a punch, what you need to remember is if you stamp on the bottom edge, because you're going to be needing to put your paper in along the edge, so always stamp, if you're going to punch, always stamp towards the bottom edge of your card. There you go. So I like to do my colouring while it's on a larger piece of paper. So this is my wink of Stella, my Stinkerella even. So it's got a really nice glisten to it. Not a really heavy glitter, just a really nice, don't know if you can see, can you just see that? Hopefully that picks up the light. And what it often does is, it's not doing it so much on here because it's quite a pale colour, but what it often does is picks up the ink that you've just used to stamp, and it picks it up and it just uses it as a bit like a watercolour. Hopefully you can see that's got a really nice shine to it. Okay, I'm going to do that on all of them. Okay. If you wanted to, you could use a stamping blend to colour it in if you wanted to. You could do it with like a black, I would do it with a black outline and then colour it in a colour, which you could do. How's that looking? Just colour in the tail and the body. And then let's just do the same on this one. So if we just do this, and then we're nearly there. Hasn't picked up the colour as it normally would actually. I used a darker colour on here, and that has put that. This colouring in is literally by picking up the colour of the ink of the outline. So just need to make sure that you've coloured it all in, so I can see where it is glistening and not, so you can just go around the edges a little bit more. Okay, so hopefully you can see that just have a really nice subtle glisten. Okay, we can put wink of Stella away for a minute. So now we can stamp these out. So you just want to line it up nicely. You will have a little bit of a white outline, but at least it's a nice white. This stamp actually, or this punch actually cuts out a little one as well. So if you haven't got a piece big enough, it won't cut anything out. But you always save those. You can always use those for a different project. And in fact, we might even add that onto the card. Might colour it in pale papaya and then add it onto where the sentiment is. Okay, so if you can see here, I did something similar here. Okay, so we're finished with the punch. Okay, so what we can see is we'd have the large one there, small one there, small one there, and we're going to have one on there, different directions. I might have them done different directions, just as a bit of point of difference. Okay, so we'll stick those on in a minute. Okay, so what we need to do now is take the large diamond. I don't know if you noticed then, if you put this up against here, it's slightly too big for the card. So what we want to do is have a flat edge to put across here. And I'm literally just going to use a pair of scissors, and I'm just going to cut a snip like that. And I'm going to add that here, and I'm just going to put this here. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll add this piece afterwards, because what we want to do is make sure it looks centered to the other two. Okay, so what we're going to do first of all, so your 2 small diamonds, what we're going to do is going to line it up so the points are across this edge. Okay, like that. They will slightly overlap, but that's not really a problem. So what you want to make sure is when you put glue on here, you don't go over the halfway mark, otherwise it's going to go onto here. Okay, so if you want to, you can draw a line. Oh, I picked up the one that doesn't work in again. Yep. Okay, so I'm just going to go just short of the middle line. Okay, and then you want to make sure you've got the glue side on this side, and then I'm going to place the top corner there and then bring the bottom one around. There you go. I'm just going to press that down, and then you can see I've got no glue there. Okay, so now we'll do the same for the second one. Again, be very careful if you've got directional paper. You might have had to have cut it differently for a start. If it's got a pattern on it and you want it to be upright, you might have to have cut it on a diagonal. So again, I'm going to use the middle line here. Make sure it doesn't go over the bottom of your card. There you go. Press that down. And again, I haven't gone over the card. Okay, so this is where then you can see, if you place that in the middle, you can see if it looks about centered or not. You don't want it sort of being up here or down here. You want it to be so that it looks centered. Ooh. Okay, so once you've got that, what you need to remember is this is 1 inch deep, so you only want to go and glue up to 1 inch deep here, for the same reason as we said before. Otherwise you're going to end up with it gluing on here. So again, be a bit more on the side of caution on this. So I've just measured 1 inch in from the side that we've cut. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it roughly what I think is in the middle. And I think that that is probably about right. And I can see that that's about straight there. So I'm going to leave that to dry a bit. Okay, so now all that we need to do is add our sentiment and our dragonflies. Okay, it's up to you if you want to glue them straight, flat, or if you wanted to, you can just glue the centre part, and you can have those so that they're nice and quite 3D, which I might do, I think. So I'm just going to use my fingers just to gently bend them a little bit, just make them a bit more 3D, but then they will still fold flat. So I think I'm going to be doing, and this is why I don't add these details until after I've glued all the diamonds on, because you want to see how it's going to fit and how it's going to look on the actual card. So I think I'm going to do it like that. Okay, so let's glue down the spine of the dragonfly. to do him quite high up so we can actually see him. And this one here. It's going to go that way. And this one I think I'm going to put straight. Again, there's no right or wrong way for this. You decorate it how you want to decorate it. Just press those down a bit. Make sure they're sticking down. Okay, so then that only remains is our sentiment. So, like I said before, I'm going to do happy birthday or birthday wishes. You can have any sentiment you like. So I'm going to... So what you really want for it to fit in nicely is you want your sentiment to be about 2¼ inches, which is probably about that. So I'm going to do it towards the bottom and towards the side, so I don't have to do too much cutting. Actually, that's got a bit discoloured. I'm going to do it again because I've obviously used a different colour. That's better. So let's try that again. Good thing you've got two sides of your card. That's better, isn't it? That looks a lot cleaner. Okay, so I'm going to use my paper trimmer just to cut that down. And I think I'll cut it that way first. Right, sorry, I need to get a bullet to make sure that I've got enough. Okay, so that's my top layer. And how's that doing for there? Well, that's going to be quite nice by the time I've got my background. So what I tend to do is to do my back layer. I literally just place it on, give myself a bit of a edge to it. And then I'm going to cut that down. Hopefully, once that's placed on top, it gives it a nice border. Right, so we can get rid of that one for now. I'm just going to get rid of my pencil marks on the Pale Papaya cardstock. I'm going to use my double-sided sticky tape to add my sentiment to, see, that's a bit, to my background. Okay, and then all we need to do is, if you wanted to, you could raise this up on sticky pads. I'm not going to on this. It's quite a nice chunky card as it is, so you don't want to add too many layers, especially if you want to post it. So again, I'm just going to add double-sided glue, and then I'm going to add it here. And the good thing about it, it doesn't matter if it goes over a little bit. You don't really, if you've got some light detail here, you don't want to hide this. So I'm going to line it up with the edge of the pattern paper, and I'm going to make it about even with these two. And if you wanted to, you could either cut this out in Pale Papaya, or you could colour it in the ink, and you could put a little dragonfly there if you want to, just add a bit of detail. I'm not going to because I've got quite a pattern paper on this one. But there we have it. This is our diagonal, no it isn't a diagonal, diamond 3D card. So it stands up like this. That's how it looks, and you can see that you can see more of the detail there. You've got your detail in the middle, so it stands up nice and proud, but then it also folds flat. What I would suggest you do is maybe put a piece of white paper on the back, or if you've got a pale colour like this, you can write on it anyway, so you can write your words on here, your to and your from, etc. I hope you've enjoyed that. I really like this card. It's a really nice sort of wow factor card, and especially for Mother's Day, this is going to be brilliant, and Easter cards as well. Any special occasion, you know, if it's a big birthday, you could put the number on in one of these diamonds. So this is, yeah, it's going to be one of my favourite, I think. Hope you've enjoyed it. As always, you can find me at Amanda's Crafted Cards on Pinterest and YouTube, and you can find the products. The Dragonfly garden bundle is and the hand penned papers are on www.amandascraftedcards.stampingup.net, where you can find all the products there, or leave a comment for me on this tutorial. Be happy to reply. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I shall see you again next time for the next project. Bye bye.